Some things are more important than completing a build on time, and I have to put my project aside for the greater good.
I would be the first one to tell you that converting your own van into a tiny mobile home for full-time off-grid living is a lot of work. And I could also tell you that attempting to drive around the world in a 45-year-old vehicle is no small task too.
I don't want to do this anymore.
But even I wasn't expecting the recent setbacks we'd been experiencing with this project. However, finally, I can now say that our Kombi Boomerang is stronger than ever before, and so is my desire to get this adventure mobile built. By this point, I'd moved the Kombi building headquarters about 200 meters away to my dad's house, because he had the tools and the space needed to make this dream a reality. Every day I would say goodbye to my furry sidekick, Alaska, and using my only other means of transport, I'd get to work.
Alright, off to work. Seconds later. Hey Boomerang. It's funny using my dad's clamps. He writes his name on them everywhere. I swear I've seen that somewhere else before.
Your chief, Andy, inscribed his name on me. Wow!
Toy Story, isn't it? It's Toy Story. The decision to glue things is a little bit tricky because if you glue it, it can't really come out very easily again. But on the plus side, if you glue it, it's not going to squeak. You really want to be securing any piece of wood that touches a piece of metal, or two pieces of wood that touch each other. You need to be either gluing them or putting some kind of like rubber in between the two the surfaces, otherwise they're going to squeak and they're going to drive you crazy. I'm going for gluing in this particular location because I really want this part to be as strong as it can be, because it's going to keep the bus going down the straight and narrow. Check this out, it's like a laser tape measure thing. So you basically put it on the side and it measures to the other wall with a laser. That's pretty. I hope that doesn't damage the sensor. You okay, camera? Alright. Whoa. Apparently into the sensor is infinity. YouTube! That's crazy. So the idea with the roof here is, now that we have the insulation in and the blocks behind it for the air gap, is to now screw in further battens on the outside of the insulation, which will enable us to glue our final finished roof to. Glue and screw, because it's overhead. So we've got these bamboo battens, which are very, very thin and very lightweight. They are only 4mm thick, and they're very flexible from our plywood. They look like this. See how flexible it is. And on these said battens, we will be installing this bamboo paneling, which folds very nicely that way and not so nicely the other way. So it remains to be seen exactly how it's going to fit. But something like that running the length of the van. If the stripes run long ways, it should seem bigger in here. That's the theory. We'll see.
To prepare for the next and final stage of the roofing, we needed to even out the finished height of the roof and bring all of these battens to the same level. We took cores out of the batten spaces to help save weight.
Meanwhile, in Australia, I am finding a colour scheme, I guess, for the interior of our bus. And I have an idea of what will be great for our van, but it's kind of hard to know how it's going to look when I'm actually not there. So I'm having a bit of difficulty, but I found some colour schemes that I like and I think will go well with our tiny space. One of the important things, I think, is to keep the colour scheme lighter, because obviously the lighter colours makes it seem more spacious. Darker colours kind of makes you feel like you're in a cave. So we're trying to keep away from dark colours, maybe have accent colours that are a bit darker and brighter, but having huge amounts of bright colours or dark colours will be a bit too much, I think, for such a small space. So I have gone for looking at light creamy colours as well as like a grey and some like light blues and stuff, which I think might go well. Also, what's been a bit difficult is trying to match the paint colours with whatever the wood is going to look like, and obviously it's a bit hard. Ben's sending me pictures of the wood that he's painted, kind of been a bit hard to try to match colours to those photos. Again, not being there, it's a bit difficult. But we just have to do the best that we can do, and I'm pretty sure whatever we choose will turn out okay. And if worse comes to worse and it's absolutely horrible, we'll just repaint things. Apart from that, I've been doing a lot of editing, and it frees up Ben to work just working on the build, and I can work on the rest of the stuff that needs to be done. Miss that guy. It's been nice to edit and see his face, but it makes me miss him. So although I can't be there with Ben, it's been really nice to edit and see his face every day.
It was great to be able to offload some of the tasks to Leah. She was a million miles away, but still as supportive as ever. Meanwhile, at Kombi Build HQ, it was an exciting day as our custom-made freshwater tank had arrived. Finally. We're planning to increase the capacity of a standard Kombi water tank to extend our time off-grid by moving the tank outside and underneath the Kombi, which will free up living space inside the bus. But
6 weeks I waited for this and it leaks.
these setbacks weren't at all helping with progress.
I can't believe the seasons have changed. Like, I blinked my eye and time passed again. It's taking so long to do this build, but you know, you can't just get stuck into the work and just focus on the task and think, forget about life, because otherwise you blink and, you know, it's fall, or autumn as we like to call it. You've got to find a way to enjoy the process. You've got to find a way to enjoy the time. It's been a struggle, I've got to be honest with you. Today we're tackling the most dreaded of tasks, the one that I have been not looking forward to one little bit. Basically, this Kombi has disgusting walls, just horrible where the old headliner was or something was on. Long story short, they need to be covered desperately. They're pretty much too bad to just paint, so we're going to try to put on some vinyl, some perforated kind of original Volkswagen style classic vinyl. I'm anticipating that this is going to be a nightmare. When Leah and I were discussing doing this, I kindly volunteered her for doing it because I just did not want to get involved, but somehow she's managed to escape before this got done. and now I can't put it off any longer. So I'm going to enlist the help of my glamorous assistant.
Hello.
And we are going to see if we can cover up these walls. If we manage to succeed, it will make a huge difference, and the Kombi will start to seem a lot less like a building site. But that's a big if, because this seems like it's going to be a very, very difficult task. We need to take the windows out to do it. I'm not taking the windows out because I'm just not. So, wish me luck.
Okay, so Ben and I are trying to attempt to put the vinyl on the metal, and as you can see, Ben, liking a challenge, goes for opting to cut it in one piece instead of what we've seen everybody else seems to do, is to cut it in little bits. So at the moment we're just seeing how much it stretches, and then we're going to attempt to cut through and around the window here to tuck it into one seamless piece. Wish us luck.
That's the theory anyway. The plus side will be that we don't have to deal with any seams and cutting and rejoining. The downside is that this could be a complete disaster. It's like a new Kombi!
I'm not lying when I say I was dreading doing this job, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. It took my mum and I a number of days to do the vinyl and carpet installation.
Ready for the final carpet?
She even helped me run the final layer of carpeting over the engine bay, and by this point our dusty desert bus was really starting to look good.
Finally! Got all the carpet in. This feels like a massive milestone because now I can get in, finally button down our CB Performance EFI computer for the engine and basically make the space for all of our electronics and put the bed in. Now that the bed goes in, I'm able to take a reference point for everything else and know how much space I have to build our home around. I've been waiting a long time for this. What do you think, Mum?
Oh, that's looking really good, isn't it? I think you've done a great job on those, because I couldn't have figured out where the holes were.
I think you've done a great job.
Thank you, my love.
It was cold and unpleasant work, but I was very grateful for the help and company and felt extremely blessed to have the type of supportive mother who is willing to work with me on this crazy project. I mean, look at her.
Yeah.
My mum is a legend.
Winter is coming. Other thing I wanted to say is, look at this. Subfloor is in. That's very thin, but it's a subfloor. Trying to save weight and trying to save height. Roof is in with air gap for insulation. So very, very depressingly, I can't stand up properly anymore. Like, okay, this is, there's a good spot on the roof. Right, flat-footed on the subfloor. I can't straighten my head. And I've got a severe neck cramp from working in here. And that's really depressing because I wanted to get a high top so I could stand up. So I'm really gutted about this. I suspected it was going to happen, so it's not really a surprise to me. Unfortunately, we needed to have a roof and some insulation up there, and unfortunately we need to have a subfloor, and I'm probably going to lose a little more when the bamboo goes on here and when the actual proper final floor goes on here. I'll lose a little bit more. It's a bit of a shame. Should have got a sprinter, huh? But Leah will be able to stand up. Realistically, in the bus, I don't think that I'm going to be standing up all that much, and if I want to straighten my back and just bend my knees a little bit, it'd be good for my leg strength. it is still nice to be able to like get in and kind of stand up and stretch out a little bit and like have access to this stuff. Like comparatively, previously in the other bus, I was on my knees constantly, so I couldn't get into my bus without either getting onto my butt, onto a chair, or onto my knees onto the floor. And so having the ability to get in and at least on my feet and do this is a massive improvement. It just would be really nice if I could, you know, do jumping jacks like Leah. Shit, I forgot this is really difficult. Got to be honest, this vinyl is turning out pretty well, and I'm quite happy about how it's kind of improving the Kombi, but it's a lot of work. It will make it look more luxurious, it will feel more homely, it will actually add some warmth as well because you're not just directly against the metal, so hopefully it will be good in the long run, as long as it doesn't all peel off because of this crappy non-high temp glue. I've got these kick panels here from Wolfsburg West. We picked up some last bit of rubber, I think, to go on the bus. Just because I'm going to be sitting here working a lot when the chair spins around, and it'd be nice to have a bit of a kick panel here.
These are the extra steps involved in a van build when you choose to convert an older van that is stripped right back. Actually, it's significantly more work, and if you think this would put you off, then you'd be better off starting with a newer van, or maybe even an already converted camper van.
These things here are our door panels, which we bought in a pack, already cut, pretty crappy quality. They look nice, I'm sure they look nice on camera too. And they have been varnished 3 times with yacht varnish, but I am going to cover them because that wood will not match the other wood. And also, to be perfectly honest with you, the quality of them, they are super thin. Yeah, to be honest with you, the layers are kind of separating in places already before I've even installed it. So I tried to install one panel in the bus and it's just basically cracking when I try to push the clips in. So it's quite crappy quality. I think it's not going to be good enough, just the wood on its own. And plus all of these holes are in it. So I'm going to cover it with some vinyl.
So as you know, we put the vinyl on the top of the van, so just for a little bit different, we decided to put a different material on the base of the van, which is an elephant skin type of thing. And we are just fixing them onto the panels on the bottom of the van to give a warmth to that area from the cold metal. Failing that, if it doesn't work out, you can always use it as a cheese board.
Mama's pizza!
When you're actually doing this, you just think it's sticking a piece of material onto a ready cut piece of wood, but you don't realise how consuming of time it is to actually try and do all the fancy bits at the end of it to make it look good.
All of this work was taking a lot more time than I was hoping, and I was eager to get back on the road. Alaska had spent her whole life on the road living in a bus, so you might think that she was itching to get back on the road too. And although she had been quite bored during the van conversion, I've got to say she's absolutely loving our temporary house life. Sure, sleeping in a van is fun, but it's hard to beat the comfort of waking up in a real bed. And having your own sofa for an afternoon chillax is pretty cool too. In fact, Alaska has never really been a territorial dog because her territory changes on a daily basis. So it was nice to see her laying claim to the garden, making friends with the neighbourhood dogs, and working out which of their owners she could visit for treats.
Go there, Alaska. What's that?
And of course, there's still adventures to be had with mini road trips to the beautiful Jersey beaches, which are just a few minutes away. So house life hasn't been all that bad for this little traveller. The only time Alaska has actually been depressed in a house was when Leah left. Actually, she was so down that she couldn't even stomach her food. Somehow, it was pushing on for 4 months since Leah had left. It was important for her to be there in Australia to welcome her niece into the world and spend much needed time with her family. Living this lifestyle, it's extremely rare for either of us to spend time at home, and when Leah and I had decided to drive around the world together, we both agreed that we'd make time to visit our families. But with me focused on the build and Leah on a completely different time zone, our long-distance relationship was becoming more and more strained.
The toughest things about this at the moment is that I feel like there's no time for our life and our relationship. It's just all about work. This build has taken over our life to the point where I just feel like sometimes I just don't want to do it anymore.
The short window that we did have together online was spent working, discussing the build and the complex logistics of filming this round the world series, all of which were a poor substitute for the much needed quality time.
This build is taking a lot longer than I thought and a lot more of me than I thought. I'm really enjoying the challenges and I'm really enjoying spending the time with my family, being able to work with my mother and father, but there's something missing, or more importantly, someone missing from this whole equation. And the more time that passes, the more distance there is between us, kind of metaphorically. And she's already on the other side of the planet. I think I need to down tools. Some things are more important than completing a build on time, and I have to put my project aside for the greater good to go and find Leah, because if I don't go and find her, there's every chance that I will lose her in this process, and driving around the world just wouldn't be the same without her. I want to have her there, and adventures are better when they're shared. This story is to be continued.
Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, we highly recommend that you subscribe for the series, and between you and us, we're creating a really cool and very unique adventure docu-series, so you can join us on the ride from your home as we cross the planet together. We'd love you to be a part of it. If you haven't seen all of the episodes in this bingeable series, we'll link them on the screen now. And for those of you who are channel members and patrons, you can click the Kombi Crew icon to access over 150 unlisted posts, with more coming every month. And also you can add your own locations to our interactive Kombi Crew map so that we can meet up when we come through your town. You can join the Kombi Crew and help us create this series from as little as $2 per month. Even if you join for a month to see what it's all about, we'd really appreciate it. Cheers guys.